Are you a contractor looking to stabilize or expand your sales in real estate, property management, or construction? Or are you already selling odor removal services and struggling to find a product that seals when removal falls short? Meet VaporLock from EnviroGuard. Traditional odor removal methods can take hours, sometimes even days, causing you to spend more time on one job and missing other revenue opportunity. VaporLock seals in odor permanently and won't come back even when surfaces expand in the summer. Just simply spray, allow to dry, and walk away. VaporLock comes in white and clear. White seals, primes, and covers charring and alligatoring in one step. Clear preserves the original look of the structural surface or top coats painted surfaces. If you're ready to begin your odor sealing service today, or to learn more about how you can add VaporLock to your existing services, call EnviroGuard today at 828-548-3900.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the live stream. So as expected last week at about this time, we were just prepping to go on a trip that took us through Knoxville, out through Nashville, up through Evansville, Indiana, across through Louisville, up to Cincinnati, and then finally yesterday back through Lexington, Kentucky. And it was a great trip. It was a whirlwind too. So if I look tired this morning, it's for a reason. We worked hard, but we had a great time on the trip and learned a lot. And so this week, what we said we would do for the live stream is we would bring you some information that would be helpful to everyone. So I've got 3 pieces of information that I want to bring back to you from the field today. And then I want to talk about one exciting thing going on in 2023, and along the way, answer your questions. So let's start with the first thing. Our first stop was in Franklin, Tennessee, with a long-term partner of ours out there, Keith, and his team. And we not only had a great dinner together on Sunday evening, but then on Monday morning got together. And the first topic that we spoke about was PPE, right? Safety. And one thing that continues to resonate with me is that we've got to keep talking about safety because it's specific, yet it's kind of simple at the same time, right? So what I've got with me today is we're going to start with the respiratory side of things. And I know, like, for some people out there, this is just going to be so basic that you want to almost fast forward through this area. But just hear me out as we go through this and talk about these things. I'm going to reach down and get one other prop here, if you will. And I want to show these on, which way do I go? Okay, I want to show these on screen. There we go. Okay, the first one, this is a multi-gas, I got to find where I am on the screen, multi-gas, multi-vapor cartridge and a P100 built into one cartridge, okay? This has to be used. The question always comes up, like, do we have to use it? Like if we're using peroxides like Oxypar, Superpar, if we're using stain removers like OxyPrep that are also oxidizers, or if we're using chlorine dioxide, do we have to use this cartridge? And the answer should always be yes. This is the only thing that will filter out reliably all of the gaseous products that you might use in the field. So make this a standard so that anytime you're using an oxidizer or a product that is a gas dissolved in a liquid, peroxides, chlorine dioxides, and your chlorinated products, beyond, and there's products beyond that as well, but those are the probably 3 primary standards in our industry anyway. Make sure you've got these multi-gas, multi-vapor combo cartridges on you. It should be one of 2 standards. And what we see people making the mistake of is that they're oftentimes using the organic filter respirator cartridge, not the multi-gas, multi-vapor. The organic cartridge is part of this as well. So if you stick to the multi-gas, multi-vapor, you're good. And we've got these in stock, right? We keep these here. We just sent out an order yesterday, in fact, of a bunch of these up to the Cincinnati area. So keep these on you as one of at least your 2 standards for cartridges. All right. The other is your P100. Now, some people, I always get this wrong. Some it's the opposite of what I'm trying to actually accomplish. Some people do use what I call the pancake P100s, right? But the problem with those is that they do literally get caked with debris, right? And then it lessens the life expectancy of those. But if you go with a cartridge, then you're not going to have to worry about it caking the filter itself. And these will last you a lot longer on the job. So P100 should be your second filter that you use. And then the question is, well, what mask are you going to use, right? So right here, I've got a full face respirator. And the answer to this is if you're dealing with gases and things like that, where the products that you're working with would also affect the mucous membranes of the eyes and nose, go with a full face respirator. If not, then defer to a half face and some goggles. And these are some great goggles that we're now carrying by Uvex. The beauty about these is that they do seal around your eyes, right? Not to the extent that you're going to have with a full face respirator, but it's going to prevent anything from getting down behind here when you're working. So just kind of keep that style. I keep getting this wrong. Use that style that will seal in and around the eyes, and you'll have a lot fewer issues. Okay, and then if you're working with this, most likely you're going to be working with this P100 at the same time because you don't have the same concerns of maybe a gaseous type of cleaner and or antimicrobial, whatever that might be. Okay, from there, from respiratory and eye protection and that sort of thing. Now I think we move into, well, let's talk about the gloves, okay? Gloves, as we all know, are very important, but we're all used to using cheap gloves. And the number one is probably something like this, like a 4 or 5 mil nitrile that's relatively short. And so I want to show you the problems that we ran into in the field the other day, and a question that came up, and it was this. Okay, they're using this kind of glove already, right? Everybody's used to using this kind of glove, and the question was, hey, we ordered a bunch of push-locks. How do these get used together? And the answer is they don't, right? Because if we try to put this glove on this push lock, well, you really just have fingers at the end of that. You don't really have anywhere to go with your hand. However, if what you're doing is, say, taking something like a long glove, I believe these are about 12, 14 inches long, and these are made by Showa, by the way. All right, so we're going to put the long glove right on the sleeve of our push lock. Okay. All right, so now we're attached to at least the sleeve of the push lock. Now we insert, and you can see you've got good finger hand coverage with room to spare. Okay. Now we've still got this ring. Okay. The way that this works is if I take a suit, right? Put your arm through the suit, pull the cuff or the ring down over top of that. Now, instead of having to tape those seams, which is unreliable, now we've got a great bond between suit and your glove, okay? And there's a good reason for this. What sense does it make to have a suit that's durable against, chemicals, but not have a connection here that's durable to chemicals? Or likewise, one of the reasons that we specified heat sealed seams on our suits is that we didn't want to see chemical bleed through at the seams either, right? Which is the same reason why with this zipper flap closure right here, we've got an adhesion that takes place on the back of it so that you don't have chemical bleeding through the zipper either, right? All of these things are really important to take into consideration when you're working with different chemicals. But this is one of them, all right? So that's how the whole system goes together. And think of it like a system, right? Just like you would think about your your mold remediation system or your fire damage restoration system or whatever it might be, there are steps to that. And when it comes to protecting your team against chemicals and exposure, then you want to have a full PPE system in place. And most likely, if you're using a Chemax suit like this one here, and you're using the full system, then you'll be using your multi-gas, multi-vapor cartridges attached to your full face respirator. And then that's where your respiratory fit hood comes in as well. And what a respiratory fit hood does, if you're unfamiliar with the differences between a standard hood and a respiratory fit hood, is that this gives you another 5 inches of extension up the neck so that you truly get a snug fit around your full face respirator. Okay. So that's the full system. And so, just make sure that when you are going through a checklist of what protection to use on every job type with the products that you're using, that you're taking all of these issues into account: respiratory, eye protection, hand protection, the kind of seams that are being used, the substrate that's being used as well. And once you've got that right, it's really easy to specify on each job type that you're doing what it is PPE wise on that job. Okay. So I wanted to hit on that because it keeps coming up and we can't stop talking about it because it's too important to the protection of your employees and too important to the protection of your own company. Okay, so we're going to keep bringing this up, but I want to capture this on video over and over again as a reminder. Okay, the second thing that we're going to talk about is the White Pine Lodge. We were up with one of our partners in Evansville, Indiana, and we've got a big remediation coming up with them where the entire inside of this lodge, which is like a corporate retreat, hunting grounds type of lodge and atmosphere is. And the problem, if you want to call it that, is that we're working with all finished surfaces. And maybe we can bring up just one image, kind of like a before image that shows some of the mold staining, things like that. And I want to talk about this because all of us probably run into finishes like this from time to time. Now, what we're up against is we need to remove all of this mold from the surface, but we don't want to change the surface, right? We don't want to start peeling off probably what are natural oils that are protecting this. In some areas, it looks like it's been sealed with natural oils, and in other areas, it looks like it's been sealed with polyurethane. Nevertheless, we don't want to remove either if we can help it. So what we did on this job, and I like to do on as many jobs as possible, is we tested in advance. We tested for high and low pHs. We also tested chlorinateds versus peroxides at different strengths and things like that, and made different combinations. We will have a video coming out on this. Kelsey up there was kind enough to do a lot of video, and I explained what we were doing as we were doing the testing of these surfaces. So you'll see my preparation up to that in a future video. You will also see me doing testing actively with each of those different chemical preparations on the surface. But just know we're trying to protect these surfaces as we're removing mold. And what we got to is that you can see one thing before I tell you what we got to, you can see one other thing going on here, and that is that there's a lot of dimension to these surfaces, right? You've got logs here that you're looking at, but if you look up above of that ceiling, where that wall meets the ceiling, now you've got tongue and groove pine in addition, right? So there's a lot of dimension here. And if you had to go into all of those grooves, that would be quite difficult. So what we're doing is, working with their team up there, not only on the chemistry side of things, but also, what tools are we going to use so that we can overcome this challenge in an efficient way? There's actually a couple ways to go about this. One is after you get the chemistry right, and if we're convinced that a wipe down is going to be the way to go, which it may be, right? We know that we want to work with a pH of between 10, and 11. So one thing that we can do here is we can take Oxypar LR, we can use Farigent with that, and we're going to give them a specific formula that takes them right to that area of about 10.5 on the pH scale. So there's alkalinity to it, but it's not caustic, if you will. And we found that that ultimately was what did the best job. Now, will they need to do a little bit of spot treatment here and there with OxyPrep to remove a little bit of mold staining here and there? Probably so. But again, they will be neutralizing that with Oxypar whenever they need to do those spot treatments, so they end with a neutral pH. But on the majority of these surfaces, it is going to be Oxypar plus a little bit of Farigent, and we will disclose exactly what that is at a follow-up to get to that 10.5 on the pH scale so that it's alkaline to do the job, but not caustic again. Okay, once that, now the other option is we do a reverse React Extract. What I mean by that is normally React Extract starts with OxyPrep and then is neutralized with Oxypar. Well, we don't have a ton of built-in mold staining going on here. Most of what this is actually, because it's a lodge, it's a combination of soot from the fireplace over time, and then mold grew on top of it. Okay, so a lot of what you're seeing here is not actually mold staining, it's that soot underlying mold growth that's going on, right? Which is just something to kind of keep in mind is one of those idiosyncrasies of jobs, so that when you're doing an assessment and maybe there's, you're in a situation where there, is a fire a lot of times going on indoors, and maybe it's built, this was built a little while ago and it's not as efficient as possible. You might consider the same scenario, right? So, and that's where the need for alkalinity, by the way, comes from, is cutting through that soot and releasing that from the surface. So in any case, the other opportunity is we start with Oxypar, okay, to go after that soil load and pull that to the surface. And the great thing about anytime you're using the peroxide base is it's going to highlight, right? It's going to react with the organics of that surface, going to light up white, as a peroxide does, pull that soil load to the surface, and then we're going to neutralize that with OxyPrep, which is going to mean that the entire surface is going to foam from that neutralization. Then, instead of having specific tools to get into all these undulations, you can simply extract it with a vacuum cleaner, right? A wet, dry vacuum cleaner, and not have to do any specialty hand tools in that case. So there's two opportunities on the table. Either of them will work. Now it's going to come down to what works best for our partner up there in terms of efficiency and cost overall, so that they're as profitable as possible. But this can kind of, if you're just getting to know us, this is how we think about our customers' business, right? We are always thinking about their sale, their profitability, things like that. So if you haven't worked with us before, or if you're just getting to know us, know that this is the kind of consideration that and time that we would take on your job as well. Okay. So let's pause there real quick and talk about some incentives that we're offering. So for December, we are offering a bundle. If you are doing odor removal, if you are doing odor sealing, the bundle that we have for you in the month of December is if you buy 3 pails of VaporLock or more, you get 20% off of all of your Deutrion chlorine dioxide products. Okay, so that's an offer for December. We're going to talk about it a couple of times, I'm sure. So just know that if you're placing an order with us, and you don't even know about it, but maybe you place an order for VaporLock, we're going to ask you, if you haven't ordered Deutrion at the same time, do you want to take advantage of that 20% discount on Deutrion for the month of December? And if you do, great. It's great holiday savings for everybody. All right, let's move on from a finished surface at the White Pine Lodge now, and let's talk about a Cincinnati salon that I was just at yesterday morning with another partner of ours in Northern Kentucky. And this was a basement job. We've got several photos for you here, and I want to walk you through these one at a time, and we'll just kind of go through these. Okay, the first one, this is what you might see from, you might see this in Chicago, Philadelphia, Boston, obviously in Cincinnati. A lot of those older Midwestern East Coast older establishments that have these basements where the framing is inboard of these original walls that are a lot of times composed of stone, where the mortar has eroded over time, and where it's now being replaced even by just like soil bleeding through and things like that. Now, a lot of times in these situations, it would be very expensive to redo this job the right way. I mean, a lot of times these jobs have substantial failures going on with the foundations already, and to do that would require you to do it from the outside, which, if you're in a downtown area, can cost a fortune. And landlords and everything may not be in a position where they can make that type of an investment in the foundation. But our customer still has to pass clearance, still has to, be reasonable in terms of the budget that their client can afford. So how do we go about a job like this and provide a satisfactory job for this client, taking into consideration the need to remediate, the need to pass clearance, to provide for good indoor air quality of the tenants above, because above them is a salon, and they've got people in there who are experiencing, the negative consequences of mold underneath them in this basement area. And you can smell it as soon as you came through the door. So here's what we're going to do. As you can see, a lot of work had already been done in terms of removal of drywall and things like that. Maybe we could flip to a next picture in here and see what we've got. Okay, I want to point out here, so you can see that there are these old rough-hewn timbers here that we've got to deal with as well. And I mean, these timbers are caked with mold, dust, debris. I mean, it's kind of the perfect storm down there in terms of just a heavy soil load on these surfaces. If we were, thinking about mold severity index, we are definitely dealing with an MSI 4 in this case. So this is a real job. How about the next photo? Let's see what we're dealing with. Oh, so this is the other side where there's not even any walls to speak of, right? We're just dealing with that foundation. As you can see there, that exit right there goes directly up to the street, okay, right up to the sidewalk. All right, next photo. All right, this is just kind of looking down one side of it. On the other side of the stairwell, that stairwell goes up to the salon, by the way, and then you can see where they're removing, drywall and doing demo right now. But there's mold over all of this stuff, even down into these floors that they have partially pulled out to this point. I think in the next photo we'll even see where they've removed those some of that flooring. Is there another one there? There we go. So that's down to the concrete slab below that, where they've removed that floor already. Okay, so we need to get back to this point of how are we going to go about this job? Well, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to react extract all of this. Now, honestly, this is a customer who's coming from another peroxide-based system alone. They haven't had anything like react extract to this point to give them the efficiency that they're going to experience in this, because it was just a peroxide-based system that they were using before. I'm not going to name names, right? I'm not here to cast aspersions on competition and things of that nature. I just know what we're going to do to make our customer profitable on this job, and that is we're going to first start with cleaning all of the structure, the floors, the ceiling joists, all of that. We're going to react extract all of that. So we've got a product package going in right now that, by the way, is complete with the right PPE to make sure that their guys are safe and protected the entire time. At the end of react extract, we received some pictures from a partner of ours in San Diego the other day. And I don't want to talk about the details of it yet, but it could be significant, at the very least significant, in terms of ensuring clearance testing for our partners in the future, to the point that this customer was convinced that they would do this on their job. And what they are going to do is, at the end of the react extract solution, they are going to use our deuteron chlorine dioxide at a rate of 30 parts per million per cubic foot to treat this entire space. I'm not quite at liberty yet to share the before and after pictures coming from the West Coast of an affected surface that had a very high mold spore count on the surface, and where after that had virtually zero mold spore count. But at 30 parts per million per cubic foot in a vapor treatment scenario, not in a liquid treatment scenario, they were able to achieve an incredible level of reduction. Okay. We will be sharing this information in the future, both visually. We simply want to do more testing first. We want to do more testing here. We're going to do it on this Cincinnati job. We've got these tests are going to go out to third party to be documented because we don't want to bring any information to our customers unless it's vetted, right? But it's looking very positive enough that this customer also wants to move forward with this solution because of the challenges that they're up against. But I can see that if we continue to get consistency in this 30 part per million per cubic foot application, then we may have a clearance system on our hands that whether it is used in part 4 remedial practices, perhaps it's used for difficult to get to areas. Perhaps it's used as an overall part of ensuring clearance testing, that we will be teaching this likely in this year's certification courses. Okay. So let me make sure I didn't miss anything there. If you have specific questions on this, I know I'm not saying a whole lot. I'd be glad to talk to you one-on-one about this, right? In a telephone conversation or, in a web meeting or something like that, and disclose more information. Because this is going on to the YouTube channel and things, I just don't want to say anything prematurely because we're just being careful. Okay. Speaking of certification, okay, let me back up before I talk about certification. We have, for a long time, done a lot of training when it comes to mold remediation, including things like React Extract and working with Deutrion at a surface level in low soil load, MSI 1, MSI 2 situations, using Deutrion for clearance, even after React Extract in MSI 3 and MSI 4 applications. And if you're not familiar, that's Mold Severity Index. That helps you determine estimating and things of that nature in low to high soil load applications, low to high staining applications. And that will actually be part of our ongoing training. In fact, next week I'm training 2 different organizations, one on Tuesday and one on Wednesday, and we will be including MSI training within that. But that's just let's call it the field service side of things. If our customers don't know how to successfully market all of these remediation services, and if they don't know how to sell those services from assessment all the way through estimate, right, then all of the field training, all the service training, the how-tos in the world of working with products, working with equipment, don't do you much good for revenue. And as you can tell, EnviroGuard is all about helping deliver revenue to its customers. So our certification system for 2023 is going to include all 3 parts: complete training on how to set up your marketing, down to being able to identify your demographic on a per service basis, and put together advertising, which we will work together with you on to provide you with the necessary advertising to get results in terms of leads. Then we're going to teach a 6-step sales process that begins with assessment all the way through the estimate. And we're going to help you organize that for each area of a building that you might be remediating. It might be an attic space. It might be a basement, a crawl space. It might be a living area, things like that. And the assessment and everything that accompanies that, including building the accomplished list, doing the inspection, educating the customer, changes a little bit by area, right? And so we're going to help you put all of that together. And then the third part of it is, of course, the field and service part of it, making sure that you understand how to work with the products, making sure that you understand how to work with the equipment surrounding the products, and most importantly, in all 3 of those areas, providing a practical test where you leave here feeling confident in your ability to market correctly for results, sell correctly for high closing percentages, and execute the field and service side of things so that you feel great about clearance testing, for example, if we're talking about mold remediation, and we feel good about putting our stamp of approval on you to the point where we are going to license all of our branding, all of our intellectual property to you for use on your website and throughout all of your marketing as a partner to EnviroGuard. And we are going to then work toward generating leads through our website back to you, to your phone, to your website, however you want to receive those leads. And we're going to be actively engaging these new certified firms in 2023, exactly as outlined. Okay. So we are very poised for 2023. We have had numerous meetings and will continue to do so through the end of the year as we prepare for that. This certification will require 3 days. 1 day to focus on marketing, 1 day to focus on sales, 1 day to focus on the service and the field side of things. We will be butting this up against market makers in March. Okay. So expect that we will have a web page together very soon that will begin to talk about all the details of these 3 days of classes, but it's not just classes, right? When you come, we will take you step by step through each part of the process. We will make sure that you are practiced in that as we go along so that by the time you get to testing, you are so familiar and you've done each stage multiple times yourself that you feel very confident that you can leave executing this at a high level from a marketing, sales, and service perspective, okay? So, and we will not launch any certification this year without all of that taken into consideration. So it doesn't matter if we're talking about mold remediation, a new roofing restoration system that we're going to be coming out with, or weatherization, or any other coating, sealant, or other service that it's attached to. They will all have the same components. And you, if you join us, will be a EnviroGuard certified firm. And with that will also come exclusivity. Okay. And we haven't talked about that before, but we are going to be exclusive and only have so many certified firms throughout North America. Okay. So if you are interested in learning more about becoming a certified firm with EnviroGuard, please email us at certification@enviroguarddirect.com. We are currently looking all across the nation at all the major and minor cities. And I can tell you that we already, just from my week's travel this week, have 7 companies who have thrown their hat into the ring right in that radius between Knoxville, Nashville, and around through Cincinnati and down through Lexington, Kentucky. But we are going to take our time and we are going to pick the right partners because you want us to perform for you as much as we want you to perform for us. So we have to, perform to a high level together as a team. And that is going to come with a lot of loyalty and a lot of information sharing and a lot of other things built into this, including that lead generation through our website. Fortunately, we have a great map finally that will be part of the new website where we will be able to zero in for your customers that we will help you generate through our website right to our map, and they can find you easily that way. So there's a lot more to come and a lot more to talk about in that regard, but we are poised for EnviroGuard Certification 2023, kicking off with mold remediation. And there's a lot to that because we're not only talking about React Extract, but we're talking about that entire range of MSI 1 through 4 and a lot of different services, as you can tell, all the way from structural surfaces to finished surfaces, as we've discussed today with the White Pine Lodge through the basement that we encountered in Cincinnati. So I think that is all. Next week, we will be talking about Dutreon odor removal, and we will be focused on that from the standpoint of both the vapor treatment side of things as well as the liquid treatment side of things. So expect that we'll have a lot of information for you about odor removal. And we're going to be talking about every organic odor. It might be cat urine, dog urine, smoking odors, cooking odors, all of that stuff that's organic in nature, including fire damage and those sorts of things. probably bring pictures to you and stuff like that as well. And we'll have hopefully some setups here to show you what we're talking about as we go. And we'll probably talk, through the step-by-step guides and all of those good things. Don't forget that we do have the December bundle. The reason that we're bundling the Dutreon together with VaporLock is for you to take advantage of that savings. So if you are doing odor removal services already, if you're wanting to get involved in odor removal services, you can save 20% on your Dutreon when you buy 3 or more pails of VaporLock clear or white for the month of December. And I think that's it for now. We will talk to everyone next week about odor removal with Dutreon. Have a great weekend, everybody, and happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas in advance. We're only a couple weeks away at this point. I can't believe how quickly December's going already. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.